Greetings. Welcome to the Developing Dad podcast, where we bring the Bible to bear on culture, education, and the family. Like, comment, subscribe, support. Let's get started. All right. So what are we doing today? We're going to do part 2 of our Christian rhetoric review of the Standard of Truth podcast on the Lead Attorneys podcast. Remember, I teased the last question. Let's get straight to it. Let's hear what he asks, and let's see how April responds and see if there's some things that we can glean from this, both positive and negative.
It's my understanding, and you're the heavyweight on this. All right, so let me just start out right. You're the heavyweight. It's my understanding that churches really can only survive over the long term through tithing. Is that correct, or is that false?
Now, that's a really great question. They were talking about how, the pulpit pimps and people come in to the church and Fanny coming in would get more donations, right? And his understanding of it is that the church, the physical meeting place, can only survive through tithing. Now, that's not a bad understanding for someone who hasn't been to church in years, and he's going to admit that that's what's been put out there. So his understanding is not erroneous. People need to give in order for that building, the lights to be the lights to stay on, the building to be maintained. My church just had to collect donations to fix the roof, right? And we're trying to do stuff with the stage. I mean, you need money to survive. If you have a large building, they're not giving free electricity to churches. They're giving it to migrants, but they ain't giving it to churches. All right, so you need money to survive. Now, that's a slam dunk, easy question. But there's also the reality, and April's going to try to point this out. We're going to just let her point it out. All right. So
well, when you say survive, I mean, I would say what you're talking about is a construct that I call Church Inc. If we're talking about Church Inc., then yes, Church Inc. has to survive based on this monetary component where people are giving and supplying the beast.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you see what she did there? Concede the point, right? So the thing that I talked about last time, she actually does here. Yeah, concede that point. Church Inc., you need in order for them to survive, they need financial contributions. Whether you call it tithe, free will giving, whatever you call, they need money. All right. So she concedes the point. Now let's continue on and see what happens here.
That's Church Inc. That is very different than what I am talking about when I'm talking about the Church of the Living God. The Church of the Living God doesn't exist as this capitalistic structure with all this overhead. It's
so let me just jump in. So we have a circle. We have a pie of Church Inc. versus what church did you say?
I call it Church Inc., which is this American
Church Inc. And then what's the church that you said?
I said the Church of the Living God, the church that Jesus built, right?
The Church of the Living God. Right. Out of a 100% pie, what percentage is the Church of Living God in reality versus Church Inc.? What's the percentage?
It's very.
Now that's another really good question, right? Because we as believers are trying to figure that out as well, right? And that's what we have the scriptures for. That's why you have church councils. That's why you've seen the East-West schism of the church. You've seen Protestantism, split from Catholicism. You've seen all of these things happen throughout time, right? You've seen the sect called the Way, right, which is what Jesus's followers were called up until Acts, I believe it's 9 or 11. I think it's 11. Before they were called Christians, they were just followers of the Way, because Jesus called himself the Way, the Truth, and the Life. And then eventually they had to split from underneath Judaism when the church went from just being a Jewish thing to Gentiles being brought in as well, right? Paul's mission to the Gentiles. So this is something that we've been trying to wrestle with for years, and we're going to be continuing to wrestle with this until the Lord comes back. But the idea that these two things are distinct is something that, and I like the fact that lead attorney asked this question, because he wants to make a distinction. Well, okay, so of these people that you're talking about that invited Fanny, what percentage of the churches are like that versus the ones where you say this the structure is right, the biblical mandate, everything's followed well. What's the percentage? And let's see how April answers that.
Well, we can't quantify it with solid numbers, but I'll just give you. I'll give you a biblical perspective. Scripture teaches us that.
No, I don't want. I want a number.
Oh, you want? Well, that's difficult to do because
an estimation. Just guess.
Okay,
I just want to know your
let's,
perspective.
let's put it in some humanistic terms. If there's a pie of 100%, that's your broad road.
That's all churches.
That's all churches.
Let's say all black churches.
See, that's
it's all black churches.
We're getting into other territories. I don't believe, from a theological perspective, there's no such thing as the black church. But I understand.
Now, this is another thing that April did here. I'm just looking at. I'm trying to make sure that my camera is doing well. Okay, so this is another point of contention, right? That I have. Sometimes we get caught into the weeds of these discussions as Christians. We're trying to what's the word? Like, we want to make all of these theological distinctions, but the man just what he means by the black church. There's no need to. I know we have this because I do it too, right? This purist mindset. I'm going to make sure that you define all the theological terms exactly the way that I want to. But in this context, it may just be simple to answer, like, hey, what percentage of black churches you think are actually a part of the Church of the Living God, and which are part of the Church Inc., right? Where do those numbers intersect? Whether they, whether they disconnect, like, just part of me is just thinking, like, well, just answer it, just answer the questions. Like, these are not hard questions, because I know April wants to get to a different topic. She even mentioned it on on the last video in the live stream, in the live chat. She wanted to bring the discussion somewhere else, but this man is not one that you're going to be easily, that you're not going to easily lead him where you want him to go. He's trained too well, right? And this has happened not just to April. Like, we talked about this in the last premiere. This has not happened not just to April, because April did a great job compared to other people who have gone on to this podcast and have gotten undressed, right? So, but I would just like, for the one, yes, every church in America needs funds to survive. Now, that's not necessarily what the Church of Jesus Christ, but the church in America, yes, we need money. And what's the percentage? I would have just given them a percentage. The black churches? Well, I think, it's probably, I would guesstimate about 60-40, 50-50. He wants a number, give him a number. That's just because that's your estimate. Your estimate is not binding. It's not binding on anybody but you, right? So that's what that would be my admonition is, like, just give a number. If you think there's a number, I know I have a number in my head. It might be right, it might be wrong, but it's only reflective upon me, what I think about the Church of the Living God as opposed to Church Inc. Right now, and she wanted to define, there's no such thing as a black church. Well, in actuality, if you're defining church as a group gathered in a building, which is the way he's defining it, because he talked about Fulton County having a lot of black churches. That's what Bethel is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he's already defined his term. So just go with that definition. Sometimes as Christians, it's fine to go with their definitions. Again, it's not conceding the point. It's actually engaging where they are. This is his understanding. You can still get to the gospel based on his understanding, right? And it's not always necessary for us to define every theological term exactly, right? When Paul went into the Areopagus, I see that you have a statue to the unknown God. Like, they were trying to hedge their bets on whether or not, okay, we there's this unknown God out there that we might not know. Let's worship him too, just in case, right? But he didn't go in there and say, you know what? Well, let y'all this right. He said, well, look, that one that you would think is unknown, let me tell them about you. Let me tell you about him, right? That's why he didn't try to correct all their theological misunderstandings about, well, this one's wrong, or this one's wrong, or this. He's like, that one that you don't know, let me tell you about him. I know about him. Okay. So he just zeroed right in onto the gospel. All right. So let's keep going.
And when you say that, you're talking about the ethnic expression of the black church. Okay. Yes. I'll grant you that, and I'll allow that. Okay. If we had to divide this into a pie, and we're going to talk about Church Inc., I would say Church Inc. is about 80% of what you see. 80%. That small 20%, that's that narrow road.
I forgot that she did give him that number. That's on me. I forgot.
That's the few that find it. So you're always going to have Church Inc., which is Broad Road. That's where you're going to have trapezes going on in the church. And, they're going to have Super Bowl, they're going to do all of that because they are trying to appeal to what your carnal heart.
Troy, the righteous obeys. I said 99.9%. See, he thinks she's low. I thought she might have been a little bit high. He thinks she's low. She said 80. He said 99.9. I wouldn't have gone as high as 80.
Your flesh already wants. It's entertainment value. That small 20%, they're focused on what is my mandate as a Christian living as this exile in this fallen, sinful, wicked world. I'm passing through. Heaven is my home. This is temporary. This life is temporary. So that small percentage, when we see stuff like that happen in a church, we're like, what?
Look, I'm gonna have a theological quibble with April, what she just said. Heaven's my home. I actually have a theological quibble with that. Right? I'm gonna do the thing that I said we shouldn't do. All right. Actually, the new earth is our home. I don't look at heaven as a temporary thing until we come back until the Lord makes all things new here on earth. So I actually look at reclaiming this for the Lord, right? So this physical earth is his. All of this is going to be made new. So I'm like, yeah, heaven and then back down here. After I die, heaven and come back down, right? Coming back to the new earth. All right. That's my theological quibble.
What are y'all doing? That is not why we exist. That is not the purpose of the church.
Okay, so let me jump in. So in the 20%, are you trying to say that that 20%, those churches will survive for years and years without receiving tithes?
No.
You see what? Oh.
So that 20%, the body of believers, our job is to always make sure that we take care of the household of faith. Those are my brothers and my sisters. So if there is a need, we are taking care of the needs of our own. We don't want the government's money. We don't want the government's help. Christ told us before he ascended that he was building his church. The gates of hell can't prevail against that. So you have churches in.
Look, I'm laughing because I know what he's about to do. I remember this part. He's just letting her talk because the question still stands. He's like, so those 20%, can they survive without tithes? Can they survive without some sort of giving?
India that are very, very poor. They don't exist the way we see Church Inc. It's simple. These people are worshiping God on a dirt floor. They ain't got no shoes on.
Yeah, but that's India. All right. That's how they live.
In America,
I want to talk about America, though. In America, how many churches in that pie of 100, 20% the real churches and then 80% the Church Inc. Out of 100%, how many of those churches out of the whole 100 can survive without tithing and economic support from the
right? I believe a genuine body of believers, they're going to give freely and they're going to give generously as God has purposed in their heart. They're not going to be begrudging like, I'm only going to give y'all $1. They're going to give freely to whatever the needs are.
I guess I was asking for a percentage.
Well, see, that's the thing. In that small 20%.
See, he just at like the number is 0. Like all of those, there is no gathering of believers unless they're in a house church. But somebody gonna have to pay the mortgage. You can't, like in this country, you cannot survive as a gathering with a building, with power, with all these other things. You can't survive without money. It's a simple answer, right? Just say 0. And that's what people are waiting for her to admit.
There is no percentage. We are free to be generous and cheerful givers. In Church Inc., they're like, you need to give 10%.
Okay, no. But I'm saying for all of the churches, for the 100%, how many of those churches can survive? What percentage of those churches can survive without any economic support from the congregation?
0.
Not 0. I mean, she's really struggling with this.
No, I'm not struggling because the question that you're asking presupposes that it's all these bells and whistles.
No, it doesn't. No.
See, he's about to correct her. No, it doesn't. He just said the simple question is how many can survive. This is another really good thing for us to practice as Christians. Answer the question that they ask. He's asked it multiple ways. Every question is not a gotcha. And every question won't lead to some theological misunderstanding. He's just asking a simple practical question about why or if whether or not any church can survive in America without economic support. And that's like a slam dunk 0. None of them can.
You said bells, you said whistles. I just said economic support. That's all I said.
The small church and the percentage that we're talking about, they would not they have a desire to give. They're not going to just not give anything.
Guys, is it me or is she evading the question? Is it me? Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Guys in the chat.
Black and slow. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know.
Right? Now this is a very like he there's no way around this. Like, I'm just like April's caught here. She's caught because nobody in the chat is going to agree with. I mean, some people there are some Christians who are like, well, she's trying to make a theological point, but he's not asking a theological question. He just wants to know practically, can they survive without money? Because initially what he was trying to say, don't all churches need money? Don't they all do this thing that they have to keep people coming? They have to keep because of the way American church is structured, they have to keep people coming in order to keep the lights on. That's everybody. That doesn't, if you got a building, you got to get people to keep coming, right? Now, how do you do that? For the bells and whistles churches, it's bells and whistles. For the solid believing churches, it's continue to preach the gospel, to help people to walk out the faith. Those who really want to know Jesus and to be like him, you have to keep offering that, and they will keep giving in order to keep the lights on, because the church they see as a place that has value for them in their Christian walk. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't think April was picking up what he was laying down there, but the way she could have answered it was the way I just answered it. And again, I'm not casting aspersions because this is in the heat of the moment, and maybe April had, and I think she mentioned it, she wanted to bring the conversation a different way, and he didn't let that happen, again, because he's an attorney, and what he wants to get, he kept letting her talk, and then it was like, okay, now my question is this: are you going to answer that question, right? Because court, attorney, rhetoric, cross-examination, right?
Okay, maybe I'm not picking up what you're putting down. So let's help me understand what you're actually asking me. Are you asking me that, not the Church Inc. part, the small...
That's what I told y'all. Somebody was going to come in and giving Fanny answers, right?
number of just faithful believers, how many of those could survive without any financial support?
I just asked this question over and over. And to me, it's not really a hard question, but
really?
It's like out of 100, everybody in the chat is
just listening here, like just listening. It's April. You're giving a lot of context,
right?
That's where I think you're losing lead, right?
Okay, so
yeah.
I think I just need to answer the question and say none of them were.
Answers now.
Yes, exactly. That's April. If you started with that and then the context.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Listen, I told you I was black and slow. Okay.
Okay. Oh, you're pulling the black card. This is like Fanny. This is all she's doing the whole Fanny. Hey? I'm black and slow. What did Fanny say? I'm not perfect. And this and that. She went up in the church and did the same standard of truth.
I cannot stand talking to attorneys.
Ouch. Now remember, we talked about in video number 1. All right. And it's going to come to play in another, I think when I do the third part. But standing on just the simple truth, the standard of truth is what is there. So this question was easy. 0%. That's truth. That's God's truth. In America, we need money as a church to survive. So God provides us what we need. In India, they don't need a lot of funds. She said dirt roads, all these other places, they don't need currency, right? Maybe they're living off the land, the God's providing for them that way. But in America, we tend to need this currency, this fiat currency, and God provides it for us. So, and that's all he was asking. Right. And they're getting on her about the Fanny answers, but it's all in good fun. It's all in fun because that's the beautiful thing about this interaction. Right. And I think because April kept it so respectful, Lee kept it so friendly and respectful, even though it's not perfect. Right. And we're just reviewing it to help people to engage more effectively for the sake of the gospel. But this was a great interaction between the three of them.
Criminal. Okay, listen. We need financial resources to live and thrive and to survive. No one's arguing that, right?
It took like 5 minutes.
No one is actually arguing that people are just not going to give it all. We're just having two separate conversations. What I'm just saying is there's a lot of false faith.
Beautiful recognition. We're having two different conversations. In my video about the art of Christian thought, I talk about that. Whenever you don't define terms clearly, right, or you have one definition and another person has another, you're going to talk past each other and not get to any consensus. because April was having a discussion, a theological discussion about the Church of the Living God and trying to explain the theological reality to Lee, who was just asking the practical question. It took a long time to get to her, for her to answer the simple question, which was, none of us can survive without resources. And that would have been, you could have answered that at the beginning, and then that 6-7 minutes, that, or 5-6, I don't know how long, but that 5-6 minutes could have been spent on something else, right? But sometimes it's okay to accept the definitions of unbelief, because it's true. Church Inc., you already defined the term. Church Inc. needs money, but the way they go about getting money is not in a godly way. Church of the Living God in America needs money, and they go about doing it the way God has prescribed.
Churches out here that exist, and they are driven by money. So if you're driven by money, you're thinking in a very man-centered way, and you're like, okay, well, who could I bring in to appeal to my main demographic that's going to get them to give? Well, if that's what you're asking, then they accomplished the goal. But my question is, was it right? Was it biblical? Was it a righteous thing to do that, to elevate? Like, what message are you sending to the women in your church when you bring in this known adulteress who's like, whatever, I did it. I'm wrecking homes. I'm lying on a stand. Like, I don't want the young girls in my church and my congregation to be like, oh, this is our queen. This is the woman that we're supposed to be looking up to. That is a very dangerous message to send. And to me, it was reckless and irresponsible as a pastor and a shepherd to be like, well, yeah, we're just going to bring her in because she's the DA. We don't show partiality within the body of Christ. We don't care if you are King of Zamunda or if you are a little missionary from the Dominican Republic. Everybody's supposed to get treated the same. That's the part that I think that we're missing, and why people on my side of the YouTube streets were like, this is as wrong as two left shoes. This is a problem. Did that make sense, what I said?
I mean, I just let you go. It didn't nearly answer my question, but I'll let you rock with it. I'll let you rock. Listen, you're a black woman. All right, I'll let you rock.
Right. I didn't pull the black woman. I was just like, I'm black and slow. But that's just,
you didn't pull the woman. You just pulled the black. All right, you didn't pull the gender. You just pulled the race. No, I'm just messing with you. But no, I agree.
Yeah.
To the extent that I have any capacity to kind of understand that whole world there with the church world, I'll admit that, I've been in church a long time. But yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Right.
What's interested, your evasion to some of our questions. But
I did not evade the question.
I'll let you have it, because I really do like the content that you're putting out. I find these very interesting.
Thank you.
Sometimes I don't know. It's interesting. It's different than a lot of people's content, but I like your take on a lot of different things.
Well, I try to root my arguments in an objective standard that is not. I am not the authority, right? I have an objective standard that I appeal to that's consistent and that doesn't change. And so when I have to examine something that's happening in the culture, I might feel one way, but I'm always going to be like, well, what does God's word have to say about this? How am I supposed to be thinking about this? Why? My heart is deceitful. It's desperately wicked. Like, it will deceive me, making me think I'm thinking properly about something when I'm not. And so that's probably what, when you watch my content, you're like, okay, that's a different perspective. I mean, I have opinions.
I like it. No, I like it.
I have opinions on this whole Letitia James situation.
No, we're gonna stop it right here. But I want you to remember that last thing that April said about she always brings the scriptures to bear, right? The objective standard that she always appeals to, that she wants to make sure guides her channel. All right, because that's the same thing I'm trying to do. So be mindful of that. We're going to pick up here. I think we have 2 parts left after that. I think in 4 parts we can get through the entire video. But I hope this was helpful. All right. And until next time, be on the alert. Stand firm in the faith. Act like men. Be strong. See y'all around. Bye.